Hi, boys and girls. So today we are going to be labeling equivalent fractions using points on the number line. And so if you look at this number line, you can see that it is partitioned into whole numbers from 0, 1, and then 2. But the directions say label the point on the number line with the equivalent fractions. And then you need to name the point in terms of halves and fourths. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. The trick is to make sure you know what you need to place on the number line. For this example, we're going to be partitioning the number line into halves and then fourths. And so we can easily partition halves by thinking, okay, if I have 0 here and 1 here, I know the point exactly in the middle is going to represent 1/2. And if I were to continue to label my number line in terms of halves, I would say from here to here is 1/2. From here to here is another half. So that's 2 halves or 1. From here to here is 3 halves. And from here to here is 4 halves. As we talked about yesterday and today, we were talking about how if you have a number greater than 1, you can label it as both an improper fraction, like 3 halves, or you can label it as a mixed number, where you take your whole number, in this case it would be 1, and say, okay, this is 1, so every number or every fraction on the number line after 1 is going to be 1 whole plus whatever the iteration or however many halves the rest of the number line is broken into. And so we have 1 whole, and then another half would also represent, we know that 3 halves also equals 1 and 1/2, because we know that this point can also be represented as 1 1/2. So we know that this is 1 1/2. So that's how we can represent the point as halves. We can do the same thing for fourths. So this number line is already broken up into fourths. And we can see that from, I'm going to change the color, and I'll make that red. So we can see from here to here, we know is 1/4. And from here to here is 2/4. 3/4, 4/4, or 1 whole, 5/4, which can also be represented as 1 whole and 1/4. Then we can have 6/4, or 1 whole and 2/4. Then 7/4, which would be 1 whole and 3/4. And then 8/4, or 2. So we can see that this point represents 1 1/2, or 3 halves. You can say it either way. And then this point represents fourths by saying 6/4, or 1 2/4. So that's how you find equivalent fractions in both halves and fourths on a number line. We're going to do one more, and then I'm going to give you a homework problem. So for this problem, it says, name the point in terms of eighths and fourths. So we have our benchmarks, which are 0 and 1. And so we know that if we were to count the spaces, we would say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the best way to label this first is by labeling it into eighths. So we're going to say 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8, or 1 whole. So we can first see that this point, if we're representing that point as eighths, would be 6/8. We can also do the same thing for fourths. But we know that from here to here needs to be broken into 4 equal parts. And so instead of eighths, we can skip count the hash marks into fourths. So we would say this is 1/4. This is 2/4. We can also see that this is exactly in the middle, so that's 1/2. This one is 3/4. This one is 4/4. So this point on the number line not only represents 6/8, but it also represents 3/4. So I'm going to write that up here. 3/4 also equals 6/8. And I'm going to show you a trick. Again, it's kind of like a cheat, but it's a trick. You can think to yourself, if I have 3/4 and I need to figure out an equivalent fraction, I know that 3/4 would go here. I could say, okay, the numerator times something is going to give me an equivalent fraction. And if I have to get from 3/4 to 6/8, I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And for this example, I can multiply each by 2, because 3 times 2 equals 6, and 4 times 2 equals 8. That's just one way to figure out how to find an equivalent fraction. And it's really the best way, if you don't use a number line, to determine if your answer is actually correct. Or if you do use a number line, it's to see if your answer is correct. So like I said, that's kind of like a cheating way, but it still works. And as long as you can find the equivalent fractions and it's correct, I say use whatever way works for you. So for your homework, you're going to name the point in terms of thirds. So you're going to partition 0 to 1 into thirds, and then 1 to 2 into thirds, and sixths. So you're going to partition from 0 to 1 into sixths, and then from 1 to 2 into sixths. And you have to identify this point on the number line.